So in the past, we've had whispers and rumors about a 25K Tesla model. However, today we have the answer. So we just had Investor Day from Tesla where we heard from Elon Musk and the Tesla team more about Master Plan 3, which really just breaks down how Tesla is gonna guide us to, have more sustainable energy, right? And so one of the really interesting parts about this 3-hour event is one, they really break down how the 25K Tesla price is actually achievable, and they also show 2 hidden vehicles in their product line. For example, if you look to the right, we see there's one hidden vehicle that looks like a kind of a sprinter van where it looks like it's gonna have utility for like the working class environment, or just like in the working environment. And then towards the right of that, we have another hidden vehicle, which is a vehicle that I believe is gonna be announced later on in this year, which is a 25K model, right? And so the way they actually achieve the 25K price is actually just like genius engineering from the Tesla team, which I think you guys should hear from the mouths of them.
This is something that is fundamentally only available at Tesla. In the places I used to work and the top manufacturing companies in the world, they don't sit together.
Yeah,
we are one team.
Nowhere I know has all these teams together thinking about these processes from the very beginning.
In fact, all of those engineering teams, manufacturing, design, automation, they're all in one org. They all report to one person. We can't point fingers at each other, so we have to solve them together, which is the best way to innovate. A traditional way of making a vehicle is this. You stamp it, you build a body in white, you paint it, and you do final assembly. And what's interesting is these shops are dictated by the organizational structures that exist. And they're dictated by the boundaries that exist in the factories that are laid out. If something goes wrong in final assembly, you block the whole line, and you end up with buffering in between. This is at the tail end of its manufacturing optimization. Henry Ford first invented this assembly line in 1922. It's been 100 years, and it's really hard to make a change after 100 years. And when you watch it happen, it's actually really silly to a guy like me. You take all these stamp panels, you put them together, then you put them in a framing station, you build a body that looks something like a car, you put the doors on, and then you paint them. Once you get the color, you take the doors off, and then you start putting the interior inside the car. It comes in through the openings that already exist. I wish it went in like this big piece like this, but there's actually people coming in and out of the car. There's awkward movements. Then we lift the car up, we put stuff from underneath it, we put it down, then we put the seats in the car, and finally we close it all out with glass and we bring those doors that went away for a trip and we put them back in the car. Most of the time, we're doing this with a big, giant car and moving it and doing really nothing to it at all.
What's funny, though, in this kind of whole process is that just recently, Toyota just called this an engineering work of art.
True.
The Model Y.
That was humbling, but at Tesla, it's not good enough. If we're going to scale the way we want to do, we have to rethink manufacturing again. As part of the master plan, we have to make another step change in cost. We started this on Model Y when we made these huge gigacastings, and we deleted hundreds of parts. We simplified assembly with the Model Y structural battery, where we decided the floor should be a part of the car. The battery is the floor. We put the seats and the interior on the battery, and we bring it up through a big open hole, and we assemble it. And this allowed us to do things in parallel, fully rethinking the process and reducing the final assembly line by about 10%. And we thought maybe we could do this other places.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, the constraints become part of the solution rather than a problem.
So when you think about what I'm trying to say, I really want to hammer this home. When you have a car that's about 5 meters long, and you have people working around it like we did in Model 3, and we change that to this process where we take different parts of the car, and we can do more at the same time, like we did with the Model Y structural battery pack. What you see here is us doing that on the front part of the vehicle, or the rear part of the vehicle. That means we can get more people working on the car, or robots, working on it at the same time. That means we have better operator density, less time doing nothing. I call that space-time efficiency. It has nothing to do with quantum mechanics. We can have that conversation later. But we get 44% more operator density, which means more work, less time walking back to the station, 30% improvement in space-time efficiency. And because we're not building it in and out of the car with those slow movements of those robots I showed you from production hell, when we go to automate it, it's going to be a lot easier. In the end, that will probably look something like this, where we balance parallel and series manufacturing in a way where we only do things that are necessary, with a much shorter final line, blocking a lot less of the entire rest of the factory, so we can optimize material flow using the best practices. And what that means, it's going to look something like this, where we build all the sides of the cars independently, we only paint what we need to, and then we assemble the parts of the car once and only once. We put them where they need to go. The interior is attached from a bottom-up or a top-down strategy, so there's more access for those robots and people. We aren't moving heavy objects around and doing nothing to it. And it means we're doing more work on the car more of the time. And then when we take all of these tested sub-assemblies and we put them together, we finally assemble the car only one time, putting the sides on with all of their parts to a front and rear that was already assembled, carrying the floor in with the seats, and finally boxing it out with the doors one time, just like Cybertruck. So in the end, you get the same car, but it's not going to be a Model Y.
Yeah, this is not. Yeah. This is a Model Y for illustration, not the next-gen vehicle.
In the end, what does that mean? To increase the scale and adoption of electric vehicles on the orders of magnitude that we just showed you, we have to make constraints part of the solution. It leads us to greater than 40% reduction in footprint, which means we can build factories faster, with less capex and more output per unit. Faster, less capex, more output per unit dollar. Zach's going to go into more details on this later, but it also means through this innovation and some of what my other engineering colleagues are going to talk to you about in the future, we'll reduce costs as much as 50%. This is the 2-for-1 concept you hear me and Elon talking about on earnings calls.
So with this revolutionary engineering plan, it allows Tesla to just optimize on the design and manufacturing of their vehicles, which makes, production much more efficient, which then creates a space of abundance for profit margins, which separates Tesla from all the other legacy automakers. Now, as the event was taking place, we saw Tesla stock fall down in the after hours, which I believe is just due to a couple of reasons. Number one, I believe it's just due to the fact that we didn't get an exact date for when this, model, this cheaper model is coming out. So I think that was a big disappointment. And then also investors were just kind of disappointed not to hear about, buybacks, share buybacks. However, I think this is just very, just short-term thinking. And if you actually pay attention to what's being said by Tesla, this is massive. I mean, they even talked about how they could, expand profit margins due to the software that they have.
Furthermore, we've had sophisticated, anonymized data logging and telemetry capabilities that allow us to understand how the fleet is doing, what customers are doing with it, and how it's responding in the field to that usage. These two capabilities combined, OTA updates and data insights, give us the ability to iterate quickly on our software and to maximize the amount that we learn and proceed and the progress that we make in every one of those iterations. We've used these capabilities to inform countless design decisions in both software and hardware.
Yeah, one example is that we were able to monitor and track the use of the sunroof in our cars and found that our customers never use their sunroof, so we made this easy decision to remove it.
Very barely, yeah. We haven't had sunroofs for a while. As another example, we are able to use our collision data to design our crash safety systems for what happens in the real world, far beyond what regulatory and consumer ratings tests prescribe. And then furthermore, we're able to use that data to recreate in simulation all of those crashes every single time we make a change to the vehicle's design or to the software that controls the airbags and other restraint systems. Here on this graph, the gray dots that show up first are specific crash tests that are prescribed by regulatory and consumer ratings agencies throughout the whole world. And the rest of the color that fills in around and on top of it, those represent the crashes that we've seen happen in the real world. Those are what we design for and what we test to.
Right, and last year this data was used to change the algorithm for seatbelt tensioning to reduce injuries in the field, which was OTA to all of our cars. Here are a few statistics that demonstrate how staggeringly quickly we gain new insights from the anonymized data that we've received from the fleet every day. Every day, 123 million miles driven,
1.9 million charge sessions, and those rates are only increasing as we deliver more and more cars into the world. As another example, we've analyzed patterns in the way the fleet drives and charges to optimally size battery packs for our next generations of vehicles. And you'll hear lots of other examples throughout the rest of the day about how we're using data to inform decisions in the product and in manufacturing.
So a lot of what we heard today is Tesla mentioning how they're really working towards getting everything in-house, which really just cuts costs. See, I think one of the biggest issues with the presentation is, unfortunately, it was spoken through the lens of an engineer. And so what I'm seeing from the public perception is that a lot of people just don't get it. It went over their heads when really this is like the most bullish news you can hear for Tesla. I mean, just having them mention how they're integrating everyone into the product, like from the software engineers to the designers, the manufacturers. We even heard them mention how for just HR services, as far as recruiting new employees, what most other companies do to outsource, they probably use, ZipRecruiter or any other like third-party service to find employees. Tesla's making their own, in-house recruitment where they have their own software. This way they could optimize on the cost. So what we heard today is just almost on every single aspect of the company, everything is in-house to optimize.
Also, we have a very strong in-house construction team in Tesla. If there ever a job cannot be done by others better, and we bring this in-house. So we have this in-house construction team, have a full control over all the activities on site, from design, engineering to construction, site management. So this team didn't just build Giga Shanghai, they also built Giga Berlin, Giga Texas, and Giga Nevada. And they're really the hero behind the scenes.
So in my opinion, I think Investor Day was a huge success for any investor that really paid attention. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, it's just going to go over the heads of a lot of people because it was spoken, really through the mouths or the lens of an engineer. However, if you really look into the data or what is actually being said, this is music to any investor's ears. Yeah, I do trade Tesla in the short term, but this made me extremely more bullish for my long-term position for Tesla and my long-term portfolio. But let me know in the comment section below, what did you guys think about Investor Day? What do you guys think about the 25K Tesla? And what are your plans with Tesla going forward? With that being said, guys, make sure to watch this next video right over here, and I'll see you guys on that next video. Take care.